I am Tatiana. I started participating in Wake Up Narcolepsy support groups about a year and a half ago. And since then, I have found what I now refer to as like my narcolepsy family. Um, Being able to participate in groups with people with such full, like passionate lives gave me hope for my future as a person with narcolepsy when previously I really didn't. Um, and I just feel so grateful to be a part of the community. I currently run Wake Up Narcolepsy's LGBTQIA narcolepsy support group, and we have very interesting conversations, and I've been able to meet so many new people and new friends and connections through that group, and I feel like we support each other. Um, and it's just a really great community that I would not give up for anything. Yeah, that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. We will hear a little bit from each of them, and then the three of them will be in a spotlight view for you to ask questions to. Emily?
Hi, it's really nice to be here. Thanks, Wake Up Narcolepsy, for pulling together such a great webinar with so much terrific content. And thank you, Tatiana, for your remarks and leadership in the LGBTQIA space. That's super important and is helping a lot of people. I'm going to share my screen and give a brief introduction. As Claire mentioned, I'm one of the co-facilitators for the Pregnancy and Parenting with Narcolepsy online support group. So I'm going to share a little background about myself. Oh, I'm so bummed that my screen won't share. Of course. Okay. Well, I don't need I just need to close this. Okay. Something is wrong with my Zoom preferences. I think it's because I recently updated my computer, but that's okay. I had cute pictures of my family and my husband that I thought everyone would enjoy. But my name is Emily Clegg Barker. A little background about myself. I grew up near Salt Lake City, Utah, and now live in Cleveland. Some of my favorite pastimes are sports and music, the outdoors, and science, as well as writing. I did both my undergraduate and graduate degrees in chemistry, and was diagnosed during my undergraduate years at the age of 20 with narcolepsy and cataplexy. My husband's name is Sam, and we were very much dating and falling in love at the time that I was getting started on meds for narcolepsy. So he's been a part of that journey from the beginning. And we're the parents of 3 handsome boys. And as I mentioned, I have the opportunity to offer support to other parents with narcolepsy as a weekly co-facilitator of the Pregnancy and Parenting Narcolepsy Support Group. So just a little bit about how I became involved. Like many women with narcolepsy, I was advised that if possible, I should refrain from medications for pregnancy and breastfeeding if possible. Being involved in advocacy and sharing more experiences in this community, I believe that navigating pregnancy and narcolepsy has become more of a 3-way conversation for patients with their sleep doc and their OB, and there's more of a consideration for symptom control. My primary medication has been oxybate. And for myself, I remained off of medication from the time of conception and then through breastfeeding of my first 2 children. My first 2 babies came fairly close together, and I spent a long 36 months challenged by parenting 2 growing toddlers while dealing with unmedicated narcolepsy and pursuing a graduate degree. As a chemist, I was familiar with the pharmacology of oxybate, and I was curious about its emission and then how long its duration is in breast milk. And I had the opportunity to perform research on sodium oxybate in lactating women in order to understand this process more and to help determine the potential for oxybate exposure to a nursing infant. In the small number of pregnancies we were able to study, we found that after roughly 6 hours, oxybate was essentially cleared from the breast milk. So from our results and the results of a similar study that was published around the same time, I worked with my doctors and decided that I was comfortable resuming medication and then timing my milk expression to reduce potential exposure. And this is when I was breastfeeding my third son. It's difficult to put into words the difference that it made to be back on medication while raising my third infant. Looking back, it was almost as if I had slept through the infancies of my first two sons. With the alertness that I could achieve by taking Xyrem, I found myself more wakeful, more confident for driving, more productive at work, in addition to being more present-minded, more grateful, gentler with myself, and more aware of those subtle changes and tender moments of early motherhood. In spite of the ever-present impact of narcolepsy on our family life, we have truly enjoyed rich experiences through growing our family and carefully accommodating our lifestyle to symptoms and symptom management. Through conversations in this community, I'm aware that many young adult women with narcolepsy question the possibility of having a family due to those unknowns around medications and pregnancy and the limitations posed by symptoms. I have been so gratified by the opportunity as a co-facilitator of the pregnancy and parenting group to share my own experiences and participate on a platform where women can support each other in this unique and often challenging journey. I'm regretting that I didn't send my presentation to Monica or another organizer, because the next thing that I was going to show you, and I'll still give you an overview. And after I'm done with my talk, I will email it over so that we can put it up and you can see some of these, this overview for how our pregnancy and parenting support group goes. So, you know, all of the support groups can be found at heypeers.com. And Hey Peers is the partner interface where we register and hold our meetings, and they're held by a Zoom. So the registration process is fairly easy, and you can register for multiple meetings in advance. So our group meets on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. But we meet in sessions. We go for 6 weeks on and take 3 weeks off. When we began our group, we were meeting a lot less frequently because for multiple years I was the only facilitator, and it was hard for me to accommodate more. So I've been really happy that Sara has come on board as a co-facilitator, and so we offer our meetings more frequently. So we're on for 6 weeks and off for 3 weeks. And I can't believe it, but we've been running for almost 4 years this spring, and some have been with us all that time. And it's been really neat to see families grow and to grow really deep relationships. On average, we have about 7 who attend. Sometimes we'll have more, sometimes we'll have less. We have a good core where typically we will have returning attendees, and then we might have 1 or 2 new people. And I think that's really nice because you're joining a welcoming group where some of the people already know each other, and conversation is pretty free flowing. And so I will jump through these, and I'm afraid it's going to be hard to digest, and I apologize again, but we go through kind of a cycle of the 6 weeks, and it progresses from what you're considering when you're thinking about becoming pregnant, all the way to having children and moving forward in parenting. So when we come together on week 1, it's typically open topic. We're welcoming people back and getting updates. In week 2, we talk about narcolepsy before the baby. So we're thinking about prenatal consultations, talking with our sleep doctors about the medications that we're on and what we envision and hope, and what our concerns are about symptoms, birth control, and how to deal with the preconception period, because you never know how long it's going to take to conceive. And it can be really daunting to think about being off of medications, even when from month to month, there's times that you don't know whether you're pregnant or not. So then in week 3, we have started to incorporate conversations on the role of support in our journey, be that a partner or other family and friends and therapists, and incorporating support throughout the journey. I think especially for when we bring our little ones home, and if possible, having the people to help ease the burden. In the case where there is a partner present, a lot of women are interested in talking about how we prioritize that partnership as new moms, and as being strained by the demands of having small children. We also talk about sexual intimacy and narcolepsy and family planning. How many children do you think you can accommodate with narcolepsy as a challenge we're facing? In week 4, we move into narcolepsy and pregnancy. I think this is really what brings people to the group. We talk a lot about medications in pregnancy, what data is out there, where to find information, how to prepare yourself to talk with your doctors, and how to, if we are going off of medications, how we manage our symptoms on reduced medication. For instance, how we approach work accommodations and stay productive. And then in week 5, we move into narcolepsy with a newborn. And so labor and delivery, medications and lactation, dealing with new mom sleep deprivation, and especially in the case of cataplexy, safety for mom and the baby. And then in week 6, we kind of look ahead at the journey of narcolepsy and parenthood, balancing parenting and career, and preparing to talk to our children about the impact of narcolepsy on our family. So hopefully this overview of topics kind of gives you an idea how resourceful this feels to women through childbearing years and facing so many questions. I'm really happy that Sara is here, because she was able to glean that support as an attendee of pregnancy and parenting with narcolepsy. And so I'm going to turn the time over to her to share her experience.
Hello, it's an honor to be here. My name is Sara Wolf. I live right outside of Annapolis, Maryland. I'm 31. I currently serve on staff with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I'm passionate about impacting the next generation through sports. I love working out, going on walks with my dog Duncan, playing volleyball, playing basketball. I'm a basketball player. My narcolepsy journey started after I graduated from the George Washington University, where I got my undergrad and my master's in public health, and I played varsity basketball there. And I was working a real job, and I started getting tired, and then my head started dropping, and I was misdiagnosed at first with syncope. But after kind of Googling all the things, I eventually did get the MSLT and was diagnosed with narcolepsy and cataplexy. So I have very severe cataplexy, and that time in my life was so difficult. When I was first diagnosed when I was 22, and I wish I would have had the support of a support group, especially as a young adult. I had difficulty with my identity. I was like, is this who I am now? And after getting done playing college basketball, it was a really tough time navigating that world. But what I saw in the support world was people like kind of complaining a lot about and how hard life was. And I was like, no, like I wanted that hope. And like Tatiana was saying, how her group has provided that hope for her. So I'm like, where were these groups when I was 22? And I'm sure they were here. I just wasn't part of them. So I was under medicated and not well medicated for many years. And I had my little niece get born, and my brother and my sister-in-law wouldn't even let me hold her without a bunch of pillows around, because they were scared that I would drop their baby. And for a long time, I wasn't able to hold my little niece, Maddie. And through doing more research, I found out about narcolepsy conference. I then found out about sodium oxybate. I eventually enrolled in some clinical trials up in New York. And first I was in the placebo group, but then I actually got medicine, and it was a game changer. It was like day and night. For the first time in about 5 years since my diagnosis, I was actually able to laugh. And that was just, a huge change, like a big moment. I was actually able to like hold my little niece and laugh at the same time. So being on medicine really gave me hope for the future of, you know, I wasn't married then, um, of what it would look like to possibly have kids. Like, okay, I'm not going to drop them. So it was, I married my husband in 2020. My fun fact is that I got engaged, got married, moved, switched roles in my job, and conceived our first child, all in 2020. So that was a crazy year. And that was the year that I was introduced to the Wake Up Narcolepsy support groups. And in the early conversations with my husband before we got married, you know, I talked about my cataplexy. He had never seen me, you know, unmedicated and falling. And, you know, we talked about the risk and what it would look like to conceive and have a family, because that's what we both wanted. And he was on board to be on that journey with me. But when we were ready to start trying, I was just completely lost. I had no idea like what going off of my medicine would look like, how I would navigate pregnancy with narcolepsy. And I found the group through reaching out to some people through Instagram, and I found the support I needed. I learned how to have conversations with my doctor, how to communicate with the OB, the maternal and fetal medicine. And through that came to the conclusion that I would stay on medicine up into I got the positive pregnancy test, and I did, and then went off of sodium oxybate. And I continued with that through the second and third trimesters. And that first trimester was very, very difficult for me. And it was during that time where I was like, I need these other group meeting times. Like we would go 6 weeks off, and I'm like, I need the support because I'm falling and my husband had to catch me. I'm like almost hitting my head on the you know, the nightstand. I'm like, I need someone to talk to about this. Like no one else understands cataplexy. So it was then that I decided to become a co-facilitator of the group, because I'm like, I was just in a time where I really needed the support of other women with narcolepsy and cataplexy. So that's when I joined as a co-facilitator. And I also learned different work accommodations for that first trimester, where I was just so tired, like couldn't even stay awake for a Zoom meeting. I ended up, you know, doing a standing desk, doing some walking meetings, and bouncing ideas off of other women was super helpful for me in that process. And it was in August of 2022 that I think you guys can see I had my little son, Isaac, and this is my husband, Josiah, and that is our dog, Duncan. And that moment was just so incredible. I went off of my medicine for after delivery and remained off of it until I felt comfortable taking it and breastfeeding. And through the support of the group, through the support of my doctor, through some of Emily's research of sodium oxybate in the breast milk, I have been successfully, exclusively breastfeeding and back on sodium oxybate. And that's been a huge game changer, because at the beginning, right after his birth, I was so worried, like, am I going to drop him? My husband would carry him from room to room. I would just sit down with him. I would always have pillows around, and I couldn't even hold the carrier into the doctor's office, because my husband was scared that he would say something funny, or I would just think of something funny and fall. So being back on my medicine has really like given me so much more enjoyment of motherhood, enjoyment of every moment, like being awake to be able to care for him. There are still naps in the early days as he's napping, and it's just been such a joy to now be able to share my experience with the other women in our group, because of what I went through and am going through currently, and being able to share that. And we actually have some quotes that we're going to share from some of the members of our group and just how it's impacted them. So this is from our friend Anne. While my husband and I were contemplating having kids, I had so many questions about pregnancy, parenting, and how to manage my narcolepsy, and only my physician to consult with. That's why I'm so thankful for the group, not only for the knowledge that I've gained, but for the support I have received from others living with narcolepsy. I've really enjoyed finding a supportive and helpful community within the group. I've always looked forward to each Tuesday evening that we have a meeting and getting to know everyone and find out more from each person's individual experience. Our Blair said the group has given me a safe space to share my journey and better understand my diagnosis and my options. I believe knowledge is power, and this group enables me to take back control of my narcolepsy and my future. Maggie said the pregnancy and parenting felt like a lonely endeavor until I found our group. It's been a game changer for my mental health before, during, and after pregnancy, and I treasure the relationships I've made. Emma said this group has provided me guidance and support that I could not get anywhere else. Navigating pregnancy and parenting while managing my narcolepsy has been extremely challenging. This is one place where I feel like I can really relate with others and their struggles as we all navigate the different stages of pregnancy and parenting. Lily said the group was an invaluable resource as I started my journey into motherhood. Everyone was so open about their part of their journey. I'm now a mother myself, and I leverage advice and information mentioned in the meeting on a daily basis.